I never imagined how cave women's daily lives were full of unsung heroism and unexpected struggles. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The air was thick with anticipation. I could feel the tension crackle around me. The cave walls felt like they were closing in, and my heart raced. There was a chill in the air, a whisper of something ominous. I stood there, clutching my spear, my trembling hands slick with sweat. The others were gathered around the flickering fire, shadows dancing across their worried faces. We were hunters, gatherers, warriors in our own right, yet in that moment, we were merely scared. Our families depended on us. My mother relied on my strength. My little brother looked up to me with wide, innocent eyes, unaware of the storm that was about to hit us. As we huddled together, I couldn't shake the feeling that danger was lurking just beyond the cave's entrance. We'd heard the stories, the enormous beast that had been sighted on the outskirts of our territory, leaving destruction in its wake. A chilling rumor like a phantom brush of wind through the grass echoed in my mind. The nearby river, once a source of life, had been tainted, the fish disappearing, leaving nothing but fear in their ripples. With each passing day, our food dwindled. I could almost taste the desperation gnawing at my stomach. The vibrant colors of our world, greens and browns, were disappearing, leaving a gray haze that mirrored our bleak hopes. Just when I thought we could take a break, a loud crash shook the cave. Our hearts stopped. The ground trembled beneath us, a foreboding sound, like the growl of a sleeping giant awakened. My breath hitched. I looked at my companions, wide-eyed fear mirroring my own. Were we truly ready for what would come next? Would I be strong enough? And then we heard a blood-curdling roar that sent chills racing down my spine, freezing my very being. The stories had been true. The beast was here. My mind raced, images flaring in and out like ghosts. What if I failed? What if I lost them all? A torrent of dread gripped me. I was just about to yell a warning when silence fell. Heavy, oppressive silence. The world narrowed down to a heartbeat. I turned, eyes locked on the cave entrance, each second stretching endlessly, the tension thick, palpable, infused with the smell of impending doom. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The silence was suffocating, wrapping around us like a coiling serpent. Moments stretched like elastic, the tension causing my body to pulse with anticipation. I could feel the heartbeat of every person surrounding me, our collective fear threading us together in an invisible bond, stronger than any sinew. Just as the roar faded into the depths of the night, a flicker of movement caught my eye at the cave's mouth. My heart raced anew, every nerve ending ignited, when I saw a familiar figure emerge from the shadows. It was Alara, the elder of our clan, her presence a beacon of wisdom amidst the chaos. She was the only one among us who had witnessed the great beast before, her stories steeped in both truth and lore. Alara! I called out, relief flooding my voice, but quickly tempered with caution. She approached slowly, her features solemn. The dim light from the fire illuminated the lines etched deep into her skin, each a testament to her trials. I wanted to reach out and grasp her hand, to draw strength from her years, but the air was thick with fear, stifling any instinct to comfort. They say it moved like a shadow, she began, her voice soft yet commanding. A creature of nightmares. But listen to me, she paused, scanning each of our fearful faces. It hunts not for mere sport, but out of desperation. It senses our weakness. Her eyes, fierce like the sun, held mine firmly. We stand at the edge of a precipice, we must rally together or we will fall. Her words struck a chord deep within me. The beast was not the only predator in this tale, our own despair had festered, threatening to consume us. I could see in my brother's eyes, the way he clutched a small bone charm we'd carved together, fear mingling with helplessness. I wished to shield him, to tell him we would rise again, but the looming darkness outside gnawed at my confidence. The fire crackled, casting an illusion of warmth against the impending cold. I turned to the others, their faces a mix of dread and determination. "We need to fortify our defenses," I proposed, driven by Ilara's words, a flicker of resolve igniting within me. "If we face this beast together, we might turn our despair into courage." A murmur of agreement swept through the group, and we began to set our plans in motion. As we gathered materials, an unexpected kindness materialized in the form of Rian, a fellow hunter I had always seen as brash and unyielding. He approached, offering a sturdy branch he had found, its rough edges warmed by the fire. "It's not much," he shrugged, "but it might help." His gesture brought a smile, a glimmer of warmth to the chilling atmosphere. In the face of despair, little acts of kindness stitched together our frazzled spirits, igniting a flicker of hope among us. Night deepened, the threat lurking just outside our sanctuary. As we worked silently, I caught glimpses of one another's weary faces, lives intertwined in a tapestry of survival. Each of us carried burdens unspoken, but in this shared struggle, we found a refined sense of unity. The world outside might rage, but within our cave walls, we were a force, frail yet resilient. As midnight loomed, a piercing howl erupted from the darkness. It wasn't the roar I had braced myself for, but rather a cry, echoed with pain and ferocity. My heart stopped as it reverberated through the rocky walls, an anguish that dripped with primal fear. What had we awakened? The sound pulsated, a warning, or perhaps a call. "Ilara," I whispered, as glimmers of doubt began to creep in again. "What if it's not the beast alone out there? What if," before I could finish, the ground trembled beneath us, sending shards of stone cascading from the ceiling. Panic sliced through the air like a knife, and instinctively, we clung to one another. Shadows loomed at the cave entrance, larger than any one creature, and just like that, our moments of resolve flickered out like the dying fire. Then, in that moment of impending chaos, Ilara raised her hand, signaling us to stay still. "Listen!" she commanded sharply. The howling stopped, leaving utter silence in its wake. I could feel the weight of time stretching out once more. Was it a lesson or a prelude to destruction? And then, to my horror, I realized the shadows weren't just remnants of a nightmare. No, they were reflections of our own deepest fears made manifest, echoing the unvoiced doubts we'd harbored. Would I fail? Could I protect my family? As the darkness encroached, fear morphed from a mere emotion into a living entity that sought to consume us whole. In that chilling moment, something shifted behind me, an unexpected warmth that spurred the embers of courage within my chest. I turned to find my brother, bone charm clutched tightly in his hand, his innocent gaze piercing through the shadows with unwavering trust. "Together, right?" he whispered, his voice barely above a breath. That simple question rumbled through my heart, igniting the last of our resolve. Whatever lurked outside, we would face it together, with no turning back. And then, just as I was about to call back to Ilara, there was a final ear-splitting crash. The entrance to our cave erupted, and I was left staring into the abyss with my heart racing, a gut-wrenching fear that perhaps our deepest shadows had just rushed in to find us. The tremor shook the cave once more, shards of ancient stone raining down like confetti from a long-buried celebration. Darkness seeped in, swallowing the warmth of the fire, and I sensed our previous resolve wavering, threads of hope fraying amidst the burgeoning dread. Ilara's command echoed in the cacophony, "Stay still," but even serenity faltered in the face of chaos. As the dust settled, I caught fleeting glimpses of frantic eyes, shadows trembled against the flickering glow, bearing witness to our collective unease. For a heartbeat, time stood still, holding us in a grip so fierce it stifled breath. I grasped my brother's hand tighter, feeling the rhythm of our hearts quickening in concert, a fragile symphony against the drums of despair. And then, a voice shattered the silence, Rian, shouting above the cacophony of falling stones. "The entrance! We have to block it. We can't let it in." His hands trembled but determination lit his eyes, a fierce inferno igniting against the encroaching darkness. "Ilara, what do we do?" Panic bled through my words. What if it's not just the beast outside? What if it's the shadows within us that we should truly fear? Fear is only as strong as we allow it to be, she replied, her eyes stern yet vulnerable. We must confront what we dread most, only then can we dissolve its power over us. The urgency of her words propelled me into action. I glanced around, desperate to gather anyone willing to stand firm. My sister, Lyra, met my gaze, her face illuminated by the wavering embers. Well, create a barrier, she said, her voice low but resolute, as if summoning an army from within herself. If we work together, we can buy ourselves time. That I nodded, and we sprang into action, scavenging pieces of debris, skinning old bones and tattered fabrics to bolster the entrance. Each whispered prayer for strength intermingled with our labored breaths, steely resolve mingled with the acrid scent of fear, and in that moment, I caught the eye of Rian again as we lifted the heaviest stones in unison. Unexpected laughter burst from his lips, warped and almost manic against the perilous backdrop. Remember when we thought hunting food was the hardest part? Look at us now, guarding our lives like warriors. A small light flickered in the air, a shared joke within the nightmare. Attention, once like lumpy vines strangling our throats, loosened just a bit, but the shadows were relentless, a pulse echoing through the cave, gnawing at the edges of our brave facade. Each stone I lifted felt heavier as they bore witness to our fears. Just when I thought our efforts might succeed, a deep growl resonated through the entrance, vibrating through the very core of my being. The sound was broken yet haunting, reminding me that whatever prowled outside was no mere animal, it was the embodiment of all our darkest secrets. Hold it. Ilara urged, eyes wide, as she rallied us together. We can't let this bind our hearts. Remember, despair can only feed on silence, silence can only breed fear. Speak, share your thoughts. Encouraged by her words, voices rang out, some shaky and unsteady. Each revelation danced in the air, a bereaved love, a failed hunt, a lost child, and as they flowed, I felt the collective burdens lightening. Vulnerability became our sword, allowing us glimpses of strength hidden in tenderness, like flickering stars in a shadowed sky. Together. My brother echoed again, his small voice breaking the tension, lacing the air with innocence that felt far removed from our present reality. Yes, together, I confirmed, summoning all that I could within me. The ground trembled again beneath that monster's growl, sending another cascade of stones down, and then came Ilara's tremulous song, a primal hymn that rose from the depths of ancient memory. Her voice lifted every quivering spirit within us, weaving through fear like a warm light through morning fog. We chimed in, hesitant at first, but it grew stronger, a harmonization of our joined vulnerabilities. That I, in the midst of our shared strength, a sudden crack split the air as the cave floor erupted beneath our feet, a jagged canyon opening up like a wound in the earth. I barely had time to process what had happened when I felt a hand slip from my enemy brother, trying to hold tight, but losing his grip amid the chaos. No. I cried, instinctively lunging, but it was too late. His small frame was almost swallowed by the darkness peering into the cave. Before I could register my horror, another figure appeared from the shadows, not the beast, but a flash of movement that disrupted the surrounding gloom. Rian had pulled my brother back, his face set with fierce determination. I've got him! He yelled amidst the chaos. For a heartbeat, I found clarity in that turmoil, a brief glimpse of unexpected bravery emerging from the ashes of our shared fears. But the shadows hungered, and I could feel a darkness seeping into our defenses. With renewed urgency, I turned back to Ilara, who stood firm, her palms raised high as if to banish the darkness. We don't just fight the beast outside, we fight whatever darkens our hearts. Confront the shadows within and without. And as her voice echoed through the cave, a sudden rush of wind blew past us, a gust of cold, sharp and cutting, coursing through the darkness, chasing forgotten whispers of our past. The shadows flickered and lurked, but every word we spoke began to push back against the tide. But the wind carried along a new sound, a rumble deeper than all the growls we had heard, a new dread creeping into the air just as I began to find my footing. It reverberated through my bones as I turned toward the cave opening, trembling from the deepening shadows. A fear I could no longer silence gripped me tightly. Was it the beast of our nightmares, or something much, much worse? As I stood on the precipice of hope and despair, ready to face what lay beyond, a sudden blinding light pierced the darkness outside. With it came a deep, resonating roar that threatened to tear through the very fabric of our world, shattering the delicate balance we fought so hard to maintain. And in that moment, I felt the weight of an unexpected revelation crash over me, an answer hidden in the cold stone of fear. This was no ordinary beast. Perhaps it was a call for reckoning, a chance to confront not merely what hunted us, but the very essence of what it meant to be human in the face of darkness. The echoes of Alara's song faded, swallowed by the deep roar that reverberated through the cave. I stood immobilized, the light from outside casting an ominous glow that wavered like a curtain drawn by invisible hands. Rian, still clutching my brother firmly, turned his eyes to me, each moment stretching painfully as we grasped our breaths. "What do we do?" he whispered, barely above the growl of the advancing shadows. The innocence in his voice clashed with the visceral reality around us, and it pierced my heart, making me acutely aware of the innocence at stake. That stillness, time faltered once again, and I felt lost. The fissure in the ground seemed to pulse like a heartbeat, beckoning and threatening all at once. Shadows flickered against the cave walls, attempting to pry open the cracks of fear and self-doubt we had managed to seal with fragile hope. "Alara?" I called hesitantly, catching her gaze locked onto the light outside. Her expression was haunting, both resolute and riddled with fear. "What if this truly is the end?" "It cannot be," she replied firmly, her voice steady but trembling at the edges. "The light is a beacon, not an omen. It's a call to action. If we confront what lies beyond, we might discover even more within ourselves." In the space that followed, a frail but undeniable spark ignited deep within me. The turbulence within the dampened fears, buried grief, and the essence of despair slowly transformed into a seed of defiance. In that potent moment, I realized we were not merely defending ourselves from an external threat, but also challenging every haunting shadow that lurked in the crevices of our hearts. "Rian," I said softly, "keep Lyra close. No matter what happens, don't let her face this alone." As he nodded, eyes fierce with protective resolve, I turned back to Alara. I stepped closer to the entrance, feeling the ground tremble beneath me, a living entity mirroring the conflict within. With every ounce of courage I could muster, I faced the light and called into its tendrils. "We're not afraid. Our hero will not be silenced." The shadows roared back, swirling around the cave like restless spirits, and for a moment, it felt as if they might consume me whole. But I stood firm. The echoes of our grief and pain were intertwined with a fierce determination, an ancient battle cry rising against the tumult. The light wavered and then intensified, illuminating the rock walls, revealing carvings that whispered of triumph against despair, of hope sprouting in the darkest of places. Lyra, emboldened by my words, stepped forward, planting her feet beside mine. "We embrace our fears together," she voiced, as her small hand gripped mine with surprising strength. The growl from the darkness became a cacophony of frustrated howls, and the shadows around us writhed restlessly. They were beguiled by our defiance, and in their chaos, I perceived glimpses of something else, figments of our own pasts, our shared grief, the wounds we carried, but also the camaraderie and love forged through suffering. Then, as we stood shoulder to shoulder in a protective circle, Alara's voice rose again like a flame against the wet ashes of despair. "Sing! Call out to the light!" And so we sang, not just songs from our lips, but hearts, the very essence of our shared stories. Each note became a weapon, slicing through the murky veil that clung to our fates. Each syllable unleashed fragments of our lives, transforming tangible fears into fleeting whispers. But, suddenly, with a finality that struck deeper than fear, the ground shook violently beneath my feet. A roar, like the shattering of glass, exploded from the shadows. The cave began to collapse inward as the fissures widened further, pulling at the roots of our resolved circle, threatening to unravel the bond we had clung to. And just when I thought we might be swallowed whole, a mysterious figure emerged from the fractures, ascending from dark depths like a specter drawn by our fearless song. It was a woman, cloaked in shadows, her presence instantly filled with an ethereal glow that dimmed the darkness. Her face betrayed a pain that pierced through time, a haunting beauty marred by sorrow and resilience. "Who are you?" I called, both terrified and intrigued, watching as she stepped forward, her hand stretching towards us. "That I am what you seek and what you fear," she declared, her voice resonant yet sorrowful, bridging the realms of light and shadow. "I borne witness to the shadows that plague you. It is my duty to show you the truth behind the veil," Elara gasped, her eyes wide, and I felt the air thicken around us already drenched in uncertainty. Yet beneath that wave, a flicker of more profound understanding glimmered like a far-off star beckoning through the blackened void, but before I could fathom the implications of what we had uncovered, the figure turned toward the source of the light, raising her palm as if to command silence. "Time is of the essence, for shadows don't remain stagnant," she warned. "Your next choice will shape not just what you fight against, but who you become." A frenzied sense of urgency snaked through me. As the ground rumbled violently, I felt everything shifting beneath us, the blend of fear and hope tearing at the fabric of our shared reality. Would we step into the light, risking salvation or damnation, alongside this unexpected harbinger? In a heartbeat, I was left facing a choice that felt as heavy as the stone above us: accept the guidance of the spectral figure or stand firm in our own love forged from darkness. It was a crossroads laden not just with choices, but a revelation that might shatter our already fragile foundation, and with that uncertainty swirling around us like so many pinpricks of light, the ground erupted anew, as the claws of fear and hope went to war, tearing through our sanctuary. The tumult of the cave grew louder, no longer only a distant roar, but a palpable force that vibrated through our bones. I could feel the tremors shifting the ground beneath us, echoing the turmoil within. The spectral figure stood unwavering, her eyes mingling sadness and strength, waiting expectantly for our decision. "Who do we trust?" Rian's voice broke through the chaos, oppressed by both uncertainty and burgeoning bravery. He clutched Lyra's hand tightly, as if afraid that the tremors of the earth would take her away. "That I in the end, it is not just trust but belief," Elara replied, her determined gaze locked onto the apparition. "Do we believe this is the answer we seek, or could it lead us to something worse?" The woman stepped closer, her shadow lessened like the fading embers of a dying fire. "Belief is the foundation of choice. This world runs on your convictions. What you choose today will resonate far beyond what you can see." The ground rolled violently again, and I stumbled, grabbing the rock to steady myself. The presence of the woman evoked both dread and curiosity, urging me forward and backward simultaneously. "What truth could you reveal?" I asked, my voice wavering under the weight of uncertainty. "The truth lies in your past, contorted by shadows that you've allowed to shape your journey," she replied cryptically, her voice resonating through the cave. "Beyond the veil is the essence of your fears and a vision of what you could become if you allow the light to guide you." For a fleeting moment, I shut my eyes, trying to harness every memory that had paved our paths, each laughter and tear that stitched this family together. I felt the pull of the light, vibrating with the promise of understanding and growth. But at the same moment, a chilling doubt wrapped around my heart. What if re-examining our past only dug up further despair? "Elara, what if we're not ready for what this truth reveals?" I confessed, fear spilling into every corner of my voice. "What if it shatters everything?" Lyra, with her small frame brimming with unexpected defiance, stepped forward. "But what if it helps us heal?" She looked back at each of us, eyes alight with innocence mingled with a wisdom beyond her years. "We can fight, but can we truly fight if we don't know what we're up against?" Rian looked at her, his protective stance softening. "Maybe we owe it to ourselves to uncover this." Even as the shadows rumbled, something inside me swelled a recognition of that tiny seed of hope planted earlier. Despite the uncertainty, perhaps we were indeed stronger together than apart. "Very well," I breathed, igniting with newfound resolve. "Show us the truth." The woman nodded slowly, her presence glowing brighter, and the air around us shifted. The walls of the cave shimmered, and the shadows morphed, taking on shapes. Fractured images from our past emerged before us, dancing with whispers of forgotten sorrows. There were faces of heartache, laughter, and moments that felt both achingly distant and painfully familiar. A figure crept forward, a younger version of myself, standing at the edge of a fading memory, filled with lost opportunities and buried regrets. I watched, heart thundering in my chest, as this younger me fell into the shadows, surrendering myself to despair. Pain rolled over me, but alongside it came flickers of resilience, the moments I stood back up, the times I chose to embrace love over fear. Let them go, the woman urged softly. Every shadow must reveal a flicker, a moment of undying spirit. Do not shy from your truth. That I nodded slowly, wanting desperately to let go of those memories that had haunted me for so long. But the pull of the past remained strong, and I struggled against the tide of emotions threatening to overwhelm me. Would accepting my truth lead to healing or more pain? Then Lyra, unaware of the depth of my internal struggle, stepped into the flickering shadows, reaching towards my younger self, her small hand outstretched in an act of bravery that made the cavern retreat in awe. "You're not alone," she said, sweet and certain. "You are loved." The shadows hesitated, swirling around her, but pulled back, as if they recognized her purity of heart. Since the dawn of our journey, her unwavering belief had been a gentle reminder that love held undeniable power. Suddenly, another pulse of energy erupted in the cavern, an unyielding cry that shook the very ground, one of desperation, of reach, of rage. From the depths of the shadows arose a second figure, this one cloaked in darkness and snarling with anger. The air became electric, and the entire cave reverberated with something so primal it stirred every fear I thought I had addressed. No. You cannot rediscover what was lost. It howled, stretching out a clawed hand, threatening to erase our fragile moment. Fight! Elara shouted, her voice piercing through the chaos. Remember your light. In that instant, I understood. Our fears needed confronting, not fleeing. As a united front, grounded in our love and purpose, we could combat this shadow that sought to consume us once more. I took a step closer to Lyra and Rian, and together, we faced not only our unveiled past but also the shadow that threatened our collective future. The echoes of our fear became transformed, morphing from despair to a rallying cry that surged through the very fabric of the cave. The horrifying visage of what we could become pushed us to our limits, but as we stood hand in hand, I could feel the warmth of a shared heartbeat, the threads of our connection igniting a newfound fervor within us. But just as the light began to breach the darkness, illuminating the way, the earth trembled violently beneath us. I could hear the whispering undertones of the shadow figure growling in frustration, the air thickening with despair and urgency. The choice lay before us, and suddenly, a terrifying realization crashed into my heart: the past wouldn't be the only thing we had to confront. In that moment of clarity, I recognized the darkness was multidimensional, and what we faced soon would strike at our hearts more than our memories, a force that might not just test our resolve but shatter our bond altogether. And so, with the flickers of light fighting fiercely against the looming shade of dread, the true battle was revealed, not solely against the shadows encompassing us but against the secrets that lingered, buried within our very souls. Amidst the chaos, I sensed the shift and knew we were on the brink of unveiling a reality that would challenge everything we held dear. The tremors pulsed through the cavern, a dark symphony that twisted into an agonizing crescendo as the shadow clawed for our spirits. The cacophony of our fears echoed against the unyielding stone walls, but the flickering light from Lyra's defiance began to carve a path through the darkness. We stood together, Rian, Elara, Lyra, and each heartbeat synchronizing in a fragile but firm anthem of hope. The specter, driven by rage and despair, hissed as it swirled around us, trying to subdue our connection. You think your unity can save you? I will reveal your deepest failures. It sneered, its voice a frigid whisper that dug sharply into my heart. I won't let you, I declared, summoning whatever strength lay buried beneath the surface. We are not our failures. With each word, I could feel the warmth of Lyra's hand, a pulsing reminder of how far we had come not only individually but as a collective force. Elara stepped forward, her emerald eyes alive with purpose. Face us with your truth, she called. We embrace what you throw at us. We choose to find strength in our scars. The shadows hissed, writhing in response, and for a moment, I could see their pain beneath the fury. They manifested memories I wished to forget, moments of betrayal, loss, anger, and isolation, fragments of a life lived in constant turmoil. They rose up, surrounding us, whispering doubts that clawed and gnawed at my composure. You are not enough. You will never be whole. You'll lose it in your nature. The memories overwhelmed me, but a flicker of Lyra's words pushed through the haze: "You are loved." As I latched onto that thought, something unexpected bubbled within the depths of my Baina sense of calm amidst the maelstrom. "Your shadows can only haunt us if we allow it," I whispered. "You are part of us. You forge our growth, not our demise." In that instant, the shadows quivered as if testing the truth of my words. Their grasp weakened, allowing a ray of warmth to seep through the cold vibrations, illuminating the dark faces of our pain. The roar within the cave began to soften, instead murmuring secrets that were once too perilous to face. It transformed no longer a desperate howl, but a beckoning, urging us closer to the core of our fears. Then, just as I felt the storm beginning to settle, the unthinkable happened. A sudden rush of cold air swept through the cave, followed by a stifling silence that was raw and heavy. Without warning, another shadow surged forth, one that bore a face familiar and heart-wrenching. My breath caught in my throat as I recognized the figure, frozen in the abyss, my mother, her eyes darkened and barren. "What are you doing here?" The tremor in my voice echoed in the void, rippling through each of us like gentle waves. "Did you truly believe you were ready to confront the depths of your heart without acknowledging what you've lost?" She spoke, her voice a haunting melody laced with sorrow. "You are entangled in the same cycle, hiding from the truth that festers in your soul." Memories of her words, her presence, and the way she slipped away from this world clawed at my insides. All the unanswered questions, the love that never fully healed, and the silence that followed her absence filtered through the air. "Too tried to forget," I stammered, the shadow of my mother entwining with the existing dark presence of our fears. "I thought perhaps maybe if I pushed it aside, I could be whole." "Whole?" she echoed, her figure hovering, fractured by the shadows that bled into her likeness. "You will never be whole without accepting all of me, and all of you. Without acknowledging the love we shared among the sorrows." Rian stepped forward, his gaze steady, a spark of determination illuminating his features. "We do not fear the bonding of our pasts any longer. We will embrace every fragment. Together." His strength radiated through me, intertwining with Alara and Lyra's unwavering presence. Clenching my fists, I took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of their support. "This isn't just about me," I stated, looking into my mother's fading eyes. "It's also about us. We will reshape our narratives." Just as resolve settled in, I caught a flicker behind her, another shadow moving near the edge of my peripheral vision. Dread pooled dangerously low in my stomach as a deeper darkness began to unfurl, the very fabric of the cave seeming to pulse with a newly awakened dread. "Do you think you can rewrite the story that has already been etched in stone?" It slithered forth, another voice, laced with malice and haunting familiarity. A cold shiver skated down my spine as realization dawned. It was my father, a figure I had lost to the shadows of anger and neglect. "No," I breathed, panic welling within me. The pieces were coming together in a horrifying tapestry. The two darkest remnants of my past had emerged from the recesses to confront me, and then the cavern rumbled violently, shaking the very foundation we had anchored ourselves upon. The past was not only resurfacing, it was threatening to engulf us in a storm we were ill-equipped to handle. The weight of their unhealed suffering hung heavily in the air, smothering the flickering spirit of hope we had fought so hard to embrace. "Face it together," Alara urged, voice rising above the chaos. "Stay true to your light." But the shadows were quick. My father's voice calling out in anguish melded with my mother's sorrow, the two intertwining to form a cacophony of grief. As the shadows surged around us, I could feel the delicate strands of our connection beginning to snap under the weight of the impossibility that loomed ahead. That I glanced at Lyra, her brave determination fighting through the tumult. "We won't give in," she whispered fiercely. Somehow, her belief became an anchor amidst the swirling chaos, but as the cacophony reached a fever pitch, a truth crystallized in my mind, more frightening than anything else. Confronting the darkness wouldn't just challenge our resiliency, it might just lead to the irrevocable fracturing of everything we valued. With the past roaring back to claim its space, the shadowy depths seemed poised to unravel our fragile unity. And then an overwhelming, all-consuming darkness enveloped us entirely, threatening to snuff out every flicker of light we had fought so hard to maintain. I felt the tremors deepen beneath our feet, a final warning of the storm that would soon explode, plunging us into the unknown. As the shadows closed in and my heart thundered in my chest, I realized, the battle had only just begun, and surrendering wasn't an option. But would our combined strength hold against the relentless chaos unraveling before us? The air was thick with trepidation, a palpable tension that hung like a shroud as the darkness pressed closer, wrapping around us like a serpent poised to strike. Gritting my teeth, I focused on the pain that coursed through my veins, an invigorating reminder that I was alive, that we were alive. "Hold on!" Rian shouted above the cacophony, his voice a powerful beacon cutting through the suffocating weight of despair. "Remember. We are not alone in this fight." But as we struggled against the shadows, I felt the very ground beneath us shift uneasily, as if it too was caught between two worlds, the realm of light and the abyss that sought to consume it. My legs trembled, not just with fear, but with the aching burden of the past demanding recognition. Then, amid the chaos, a flash of brightness flickered in the edges of my consciousness. It was the memory of laughter, genuine, unburdened laughter we had shared, moments filled with veracity and warmth. With every ounce of focus I could muster, I brought that memory to the forefront. "We are not defined by our loss," I shouted, channeling the strength I had found in laughter, in joy, and in love. At once, the shadows hesitated, as if caught off guard. Perhaps they too had not anticipated the power of our shared memories, an unshakable foundation that clung steadfastly even in the harshest turmoil. "I see you," I cried, this time directing my words not just at the figure of my mother or father but at the shadows that danced around us, oscillating between fury and remorse. "I see the pain that encased you and I accept it. We acknowledge our losses and, through that acceptance, we reclaim our strength." As I spoke, a ripple ran through the darkness. The figures of my parents flickered with uncertainty, their expressions melding into a mixture of pride and sorrow. They too were grappling with the gnawing shame of unaddressed heartache. The cave trembled, a rumble of discontent, but I felt a warmth blossoming at my core. Was it my resolve mingling with the collective courage of those beside me? Lyra stepped bravely forward, illuminating the space with a fierce determination. "Let our love be our shield," she declared, extending her arms outward. With that, a light pierced through the ominous black curtain like the sun breaking free from storm clouds. The shadows recoiled, yielding momentarily, and into that fragile breach, Elara seized the opportunity. "We each carry the stories we've buried and they can guide us, not curse us." With her rallying cry, flashes of our shared history ignited the cavern walls, revealing moments steeped in laughter, resilience, and camaraderie. Each memory was like a fragile thread, but together, we wove the tapestry of our Levisa, tapestry that vibrated with undeniable beauty in the midst of pain. Yet even as unity blossomed, ominous whispers still snaked around us, beckoning our doubts to resurface. "You think you can banish me?" the deep malevolent voice of my father hissed. "You are shadowed by the same failures, the same loneliness. The light you cling to is a frail illusion." With each word, I felt the weight of his sorrow drape over us, heavy and palpable, almost suffocating in its intensity. I saw the flicker of fear re-emerge in Lyra's gaze as if the shadow sensed our wavering spirit. "Don't listen," Rian urged, stepping protectively in front of Lyra. The light still flickered amidst the darkness, but I could sense a moment of hesitation, a tremor in our unity. I tightened my hands into fists, every sinew in my body screaming against the temptation to crumble, and then I remembered a simpler truth, one often overlooked in the face of devastation. We had all been forged through the fire of our upbringing, surviving and growing stronger rather than being devoured by it. Your shadows are just that, shadows. His voice reflected my burning passion and unwavering belief. We can choose to eschew the darkness. We embrace our past, honor it, and choose to rise above it. With those words, I took a bold step forward, uniting my energy with the warmth emanating from Rian and Elara. We formed a circle, each of us linking arms as a defensive barrier against the encroaching despair. We amplified the light between us, letting it swell and thrum until it vibrated through our bodies. One by one, the shadows began to hesitate again, their snarls now tinged with uncertainty, sparked by our conviction. I felt my mother's warmth fill the space, brushing against my heart like a gentle breeze. You have choice still, with every breath, you shape your journey, together. Shouted Alara, lifting her free arm, as if calling the chaotic energies to align. In that moment, something flickered deep within the cavern. The air crackled with raw potential, a chaotic swirl of past sorrows and present determination merging into something powerful and profound, but just as I believed that we had struck a chord within the darkness, the trembling escalated, and it became clear that our battle was far from finished. A deep rumble echoed again, reverberating through me like a heartbeat hungry, predatory. Suddenly, an explosion of ebony mist erupted, swallowing my vision, and a deafening roar shattered my hope, striking me like a thunderclap. A surge of pain flared through me. Warmth of unity threatened to fade, eclipsed by the accursed screams of regret and betrayal. As everything spiraled into the abyss, the darkness revealed a new Aurora vision, glimmering at the edges of my consciousness, carving its way into reality. As the mist twisted and swirled, the familiar outline of another figure emerged, an unexpected silhouette that made my heart plummet. That I gasped as recognition struck me with ruthless clarity. It was someone I had never anticipated seeing. Someone who had been long believed lost to the depths of despair. My breath hitched, and the words caught in my throat as the revelation unfolded like a nightmare come to life. That we were unprepared, standing on the precipice of not just our past but an unexpected and shattering truth that would test the very fabric of our unity. The darkness closed in, and I knew, in that moment, that I was ready to confront whatever shadow lay ahead, regardless of the cost. As the suffocating mist began to lift, I caught sight of the figure before me, suspended in a liminal space between apprehension and hope. The shrouded silhouette clung to the edges of memory, every line familiar yet distorted by the shadows that had engulfed them. My heart raced as recognition plunged deep. A swirl of emotions crashed within me like the tumult of a storm. Is it really you? I whispered, the words barely escaping my lips, afraid that I would shatter the fragile cocoon of illusion that surrounded us. The figure hesitated, their eyes glistening with a profound sadness. I had lost my way, but am here now, they replied, the voice both a balm and a blade. This darkness, it is not just your struggle, it has entwined all of us who've walked this path. The name hung in the air, unacknowledged yet throbbing with an unrelenting force, echoing through my marrow. My heart ached anew, a strange blend of joy and anguish flooding every synapse. I had been searching for this person amidst the shards of our shared history, but the price of reunion felt too high. Please, Rian's voice broke through the haze, a tether pinning us against the chaos. Step into the light. We've fought for too long to let shadows consume us, but as the familiar warmth radiated from his presence, the figure recoiled slightly, their countenance pained and confused. You don't see it, do you? The shadows are not my choice, but the pain of others, the grief of our shared past that continues to haunt us. Can you truly embrace me without also facing the abyss I carry? Every word spoken felt like a dagger gashing into the raw scabs of our shared wounds, yet beneath that pain, a flicker of defiance ignited within me. Our stories are interwoven, I declared, steadier now. Yours is a thread that binds us all, and in acceptance, we can break the chains of darkness. The tension in the air swelled, and the surrounding shadows coiled tighter, as if sensing the rift that was beginning to form not just in our collective pain, but also in our burgeoning strength. Each flicker of hope ignited memories of laughter, warmth, and resilience within the group. A comforting embrace amidst the chaos. Lyra stepped forward, emboldened by the shared memory of joy. We move as one. Each life touches another, and together, we are whole. No matter the scars we bear. The figure flinched, a spark of recognition flickering in their eyes. But what if accepting this darkness means inviting it back into our lives? The guilt, the loss these shadows feel indelibly marked upon our souls. No sooner did the spectre voice their dread than the cavern around us began to pulse with an energy that transcended despair, an unfolding vibrational hum echoing the burdens we each carried. The darkness shivered, threatening to consume us but for the burgeoning light we summoned. It won't define us, Alara interjected, her voice rising to fill the cavern. We've already faced so much. It's in the vulnerability of our connections where we find strength. If we face this together, we can undo what was lost and reclaim the future. And just as the masses of shadows began to swirl violently, a revelation blossomed within me, igniting another flicker of courage. The past is a teacher, not a prison. We can intertwine every moment of grief with hope to craft the stories of our lives anew. Our spirits seem to resonate with that call, bonds blossoming tighter as our voices unite, Dan ascending crescendo echoing against the cavern walls. I extended my hand towards the re-emerging figure, my heart laying itself bare. Come with us. You are not defined by the darkness that seeks to consume you. You are more than shadows. In that very moment, I was aware of the overwhelming heights of vulnerability we faced together, not as individuals lost in darkness, but as a collective yearning for light. The energy between us surged, an electrifying warmth coursing through our linked hands, fueling a tether of unity against the tide of despair. But then, as the figure reached hesitantly for my hand, a roar erupted from the core of the abyss. The shadows convulsed violently around us. An unseen force fueled by our doubts and fears spread through the darkness like wildfire, threatening to tear at the very fabric of our hard-won unity. Don't let go. Rian shouted, his grip tightening around mine, and in his gaze, I saw a flicker of terror mirrored in all of our eyes. The shadows shrieked in disdain, swirling furiously as if to demonstrate their power. The cavern trembled again, the ground shaking beneath our feet, and a deep sense of foreboding crept into my heart. My pulse quickened as I sensed the final hour approaching. The shadows were not just a manifestation of our struggles, they were a sentient entity, feeding on our uncertainties. And in that moment, as chaos danced around us, I felt another presence materializing, something more potent woven into the very fabric of darkness. The silhouette of the figure solidified, revealing the identity that caused my heart to plummet further still, the lost pieces I had mourned for so long. The surge of connection and the anger from the abyss clashed violently, and among the tumult, the truth struck like thunder. To confront the shadows, we must face the worst of our truths. With every ounce of resolve, I searched the eyes of the figure standing before me, one who carried so much of my own past, and within that exchange, an unspeakable promise was born, a choice laid bare that could either rescue us all or threaten to tear us apart forever. As the echoes of anguish morphed into a haunting melody of acceptance, I knew the choice was ours, a crossroad steeped in uncertainty, but in the depths of struggle, perhaps nothing glimmers more brightly than the flicker of hope, however small. The cacophony of shadows swirled the air thick with dread as I confronted the familiar figure, the embodiment of my heart's deepest sorrows, now a harbinger of an unsettling choice. The turbulent energy enveloped us, reverberating through the very marrow of our beings, challenging everything I thought I knew. Can we truly embrace this pain and walk forth together? I muttered, grappling with the gravity of the moment. The spectre hovered, raw emotions playing across their face, a reflection of the turmoil within me. The abyss loomed, its breath a chilling breeze that caressed my skin just as the memories of lost laughter sidled up beside me. Suddenly, the cavern was alive with sound, unearthly whispers that seemed to weave together our fear and our hope into something tangible. They spoke in a language I once understood, a mantra that echoed through the halls of my heart, long buried beneath layers of heartache. You are not alone. You are not defined by loss. Rian's hand found my shoulder, grounding me amidst the storm, as an unexpected warmth spread through our connection. You're right, he spoke, his voice steady yet soft. Let's not be separate in this struggle. We must face our shadows together, not against each other but united. As the darkness roared in opposition, Lyra stepped forward, seemingly fearless in the fray. Our shared stories are the light that dispels despair. We must amplify our collective strength. Her voice wove through the chaos, embracing the flickers of light that flickered amidst the shadows. In that moment, as if guided by an unseen force, the memories of our laughter cascaded like droplets falling gracefully onto a surface rippling with fear. Feelings of joy long forgotten began to awaken passion within our hearts, each recollection igniting small fires against the engulfing night. The connection between us intensified, a tapestry of threads slowly stitching our ragged souls back together. Yet, just as hope started to swell, an unforgiving tremor shook the ground beneath us, a harbinger of our undoing. The abyss spat forth a chilling wind, as if to remind us of the price of our choice. You think acceptance will shield you? A voice hissed, slick with bitterness. You only invite more suffering. These shadows will consume you whole. The figure before me flinched at the taunts of the abyss, memories flickering through their eyes like shadows dancing upon the walls. My heart thudded painfully. How could I be so hopeful when the spectre was fighting an invisible war within? Every word of doubt from the abyss clanged against the fragility of our bonds, steeped in the haunting narrative of loss. Listen, I said, my voice trembling but resolute. You are not alone in this fight. I carry my scars, but within them are stories of joy and resilience. Together, we can rewrite what has been lost. As if summoned by my declaration, a flicker of light erupted from the figure. They seemed to emanate warmth, a glimmer of recognition sparking deep in their gaze. Slowly, they began to reach for my hand again, the current of doubt softened by an insistent push of shared memories. Together they echoed, a tremor of hope lacing the question, and just as our fingers brushed, a violent wave of darkness slammed into us, pulling at our souls with relentless fury. No! Cried Alara, her voice rising above the chorus of despair. Do not yield to this. We are more than these shadows. In that instant, as the cavern echoed her words, a surge of compassion encapsulated the moment, a dawning realization that in our connectedness lay an unparalleled strength, as if our collective sorrow forged a shield against the onslaught of fear. But amidst this rush of warmth, a sharp pang of dread sliced through. As our hands joined, something stirred within the cavern wall, an unearthly shimmer that flared and flickered, revealing a hidden chamber behind translucent stone. From within the depths of that light, the echoes of laughter and sorrow blended into an unsettling melody. Voices of those we had lost rang out, a haunting symphony of the forgotten. What is this place? I whispered, a tremor of awe lacing my voice. Before hope can bloom, one must face the roots of despair, Rian answered, his eyes wide with realization. And then, as the last fragments of hope coalesced, a revelation erupted from the very core of the abyss. Each soul carries a burden that must be faced, longing for closure, the ache of loss that still echoes in silence. You cannot move forward without first binding those shadows with understanding. Suddenly, a vivid scene played out before us within that shimmering chamber, a remembrance of childhood games and final farewells danced like phantoms. The laughter intertwined with anguished cries, shattering our hearts anew. In that moment, an overwhelming decision pressed upon my shoulders. I sensed their fears intertwining with mine, auguring profound grief nestled within the warmth we shared. If we truly wanted to rise from this despair, we would need to face everything, the losses, the love, and the shadows that haunted our very souls. As that truth dawned, the darkness roared furiously. Then let the reckoning unfold. It bellowed, eager for an opportunity to shatter the spirit rising among us. And as the fissures expanded, twisting and turning, a booming shadow rushed toward us, leaving me breathless at the precipice of an uncharted path, the weight of choices unmade heavy on my heart. Would we answer that call for unity, embrace our deepest pains, or would the shadows swallow us whole? Time hung in the balance, a fragile tether from which our fragile hopes and fears dangled precariously. As the darkness pressed in around us, limbs trembling and hearts racing, I was struck by a singular truth: our fight was not merely against the shadows outside of us, but the shadows that lingered within. The weight of our past loomed over us, clawing at the edges of our resolve, but here we were, together, defiance rising like an unyielding flame against the chill of despair. Together, I cried, clenching hands with my friends, feeling the urgency of our connection pulse between us. We must show the shadows that we refuse to be defined by our losses. In that moment, I felt compelled to confront the swirling memories, the laughter, the pain, the joy, everything we had buried deeply. I turned my gaze towards the shimmering chamber behind the stone, where the echoes of our past beckoned. We have loved fiercely, lost deeply, but our stories do not end here. We will bring our pain into the light. The cavern seemed to pulse with new energy, the shadows recoiling slightly as we stepped forward together. Alara raised her chin, the ancient wisdom in her eyes igniting a spark of belief. Let us gather every moment that has shaped us and weave it into our strength. I felt Rian's affirming grip, and with Lyra's unwavering gaze beside me, we began to share our stories. Memories poured forth like ancient rivers, filled with laughter that came after tears, joy that blossomed amidst heartache. We spoke of our dreams, our fears, the love we had lost, and the love that was still a living intricate tapestry woven with vulnerability and shared understanding. With each confession, I felt the shadows around us quiver, the unseen force that sought to engulf us faltering against the light we were igniting. The presence of my parents lingered, their forms flickering, caught between belonging and abandonment. "We honor you," I whispered, tears pooling in my eyes. "We embrace our pain to create a future that honors our love," and then, as if in response to our sincerity, the shadows paused, their ferocity wavering. "You think you can rewrite what I had crafted?" hissed the dark figure, echoing through the cavern. "You believe love can shield you from your truth," but beneath this fear, the truth stared back, a reflection of every heartbreak and sweet memory blending together to forge an unbreakable chain of love. "Yes," I affirmed, voice unwavering. "We stand united. And you can't erase the bonds we forged through every scar. Love will always find its way back." The cavern brightened, the darkness melting away in the face of our collective resolve. As we stood together, the walls echoed our declaration, a harmonious chant that rang through time, threading through history like a melody meant to be played. We could see the figures of our parents begin to shimmer, their expressions softening, shifting from sorrow to acceptance. Douc. My father's voice rumbled, turning softer. "The shadows are as much a part of you as the light. To truly heal, you must not cast us away but welcome us as well." "Yes," my mother breathed, stepping closer, the darkness peeling away to reveal her in her true form, a radiant presence forged from the memories we held dear. "We are the echoes of your love, resilience, and strength. Together, we can transcend these shadows." With a newfound sense of truth pulsating through my veins, I stepped forward, intertwining my fingers with those of Rian, Lyra, and Alara. "We accept all parts of ourselves, the joy and sorrow of our journey. Together, we will forge ahead." With that proclamation, the shadows erupted, their twisted forms reshaping into tendrils of light and dark, weaving together yet again to create a tapestry of life, the bittersweet song of humanity. It was then the illumination broke through fully, flooding the cave, illuminating not just the stone but our hearts. Together we shouted, erupting into a symphony of voices that echoed through the cavern like an anthem of hope. In that moment, we were united not only by the love we shared but by the acceptance of everything we were, shadows and light alike, and as the darkness receded, the echoes of my parents lingered in the air, reminders that they, too, would always be part of my journey, a part that I no longer needed to fear, but rather embrace and carry forward. With arms open wide, we stepped into the light, knowing we could rewrite our story, fueled by love, acceptance, and resilience, but perhaps the most profound twist was yet to come. As the shadows melted into the embrace of light, I felt an unexplainable warmth expand within me, the reawakening of a truth long buried. My heart surged, and the tears streamed down my cheeks, not of sorrow, but of recognition. Amidst the chaos, amidst the shadows, I realized my deepest struggle was never about loss alone, but about the voice I had silenced within me, longing to be heard. Turning back, I could feel the bond we had forged now transforming into something more profound. The cavern's warmth washed over us, and I found myself smiling, ready to cherish every moment, every connection forged in both light and dark. As we stood there, grounded firmly in our acceptance, I looked into the eyes of my friends, a newfound light illuminating our path ahead. "Together, we're unstoppable," I whispered, feeling the essence of every heart that had touched mine, and with that, I spoke the words that echoed not just through the cavern but through the corridors of my heart: "Love will always light the way home."